All right. Well, it says we're live, but I don't trust it. So I'll give it a few seconds. Hello, and welcome to Sundays with Solus number 4 for July 3rd, 2016. My name is Josh. I am the communications manager for the Solus project. And join me today is Ike. Say hi, Ike.
Hi, Ike.
Okay. And he is the founder, our benevolent dictator, our deity, basically all of the above and more. So there has been a lot of stuff that has happened since our last Sundays with Solos. And I know it's been a while since we've had one. So if you didn't get the memo, Solus 1.2 has been released, and we already put out a blog post regarding upcoming changes to Solus 1.2.1, which will be an intermediate release between 1.2 and 1.3. And Solus 1.2.1 is going to feature improvements to the software center. Like there's going to be a more advanced mechanism for installing third-party software and a background service for checking for updates. The installer is going to get LVM, LUX, and full disk encryption support. And there's going to be full iBus support to improve internationalization and multilingual support. But wait, there's more. So IKEA has actually been working on a lot of improvements for Budgie and Light DM. So I will go ahead and hand it off to him to talk about that stuff.
Thank you very much. So the improvements I've been late, can't even speak today. The improvements I've been making lately to Budgie is mainly to, I guess, improve the integration. One of the points of pain for a while has been the run dialogue. If anyone's used it, it doesn't really match the rest of Budgie anymore, and it hasn't since Budgie 10 was introduced. So we now have a new, very minimalist Budgie run dialogue, which has all the auto completion you need, and it actually matches the styling of Arc. So that's in. It's actually already in Solus Unstable already, so people can test that today.
And you could actually get that with pressing Alt F2. A lot of people were like, whoa, I've never seen this thing before. It's like, well, it's actually been in Budgie like all this time. We just really haven't promoted it because my understanding is it's sort of one of those remnant pieces since like Budgie 8 that just hasn't really been sort of touched until now.
I mean, there's always been some kind of run dialogue in. It was changed a couple of times, but yeah, as I say, when we got Budgie 10 in, it was never really changed again to match it, but now it actually does.
Right. And there's also been work towards a pretty light DM greeter.
Yeah. Again, this focuses on integration, but we're changing the Light DM, which is the login screen we use in Solus, where instead of using the generic Light DM GTK greeter, we're providing one that's specific for Budgie. So again, that will use the Budgie theme in, that'll integrate nicely with that.
Yeah, and there's also been some miscellaneous fixes, like a few apps that have not been playing nicely with Budgie that have been fixed. Visual Studio Code. So those were fixed yesterday during the Hackfest 1.2.1 day one. But something I feel is really major that has happened recently is you just got your hands on some NVIDIA Optimus enabled hardware. And we could sort of anticipate the introduction of support for Optimus. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, it's a massive pain in the ass. So I finally got an NVIDIA Optimus laptop. Thanks to a member of the community, sold a laptop to us because I've not been able to get one, not for love nor money. I've not been able to get a hold of a laptop. So that finally got delivered there last week, and that has a GTX 765M or something on it. It's an
Yeah.
NVIDIA thing anyway. So now we can actually start working on the Optimus support, which we've started investigating. We've quickly realized that the solutions out there just aren't generic at all. They're basically made for Ubuntu, and everybody's trying to shoehorn them everywhere else. So we will see new work come out of Solus to have something that's more generic and works for everybody.
And by works for everyone, not only do you mean generic in the sense of distributions, but also potentially in the sense of those individuals such as myself that unfortunately run like AMD hardware. with like a dedicated AMD GPU in theory because of the way it might be implemented.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean the way that I'm going to implement it is not just going to be tied specifically to Optimus. I mean the intent here is the use of hybrid GPUs. You know, you've
right,
got your dedicated, you got your discrete, whatever, right? So the way that it will be designed is it will have the scope to allow something like AMD. So that will obviously be the next move once I've got Optimus supported, and then we start working on your laptop and
right.
make sure that we can use your GPU as well.
Which would be amazing because I don't think it has ever been used under Linux because the way it worked before was AMD had this really terrible way of doing switchable graphics where you would then have to restart your X session, and that just isn't viable. So,
Yeah, I mean that's actually how it's done on Ubuntu as well.
right,
Um, yeah, I mean there are ways of dynamically switching it, but basically the story is unless you install something like Bumblebee, which again is Optimus specific, there's no AMD scope there at all. You install the NVIDIA driver and you're now just using your NVIDIA, which is great because you're using your GPU. But by the same token, the reason this all exists is to save your battery. And when your battery life goes down to 40 minutes, you have an issue.
right. And as always, new software has been introduced into the repository to meet the needs of our users, and this is going to continue to be improved as we near Solus 1.2.1. It's always going to be an ongoing mission of ours to improve the software. So I want to highlight a few inclusions by our community members. So thanks to the great work by Manokara, we have Ardor, a digital audio workstation, and I know how much of a pain that is to package. So thank you a lot for doing that. Sunnyflunk has improved the music tagging software Picard in the repo by introducing support for MP3 gain and Vorbis gain. Loopset has enabled people to keep up to date on the news they follow by landing Liferia in the repo. And I'm really crossing my fingers that one day Liferia will implement like OwnCloud and Nextcloud news support because that's what I use. And for all your database administrators out there, we also have pgadmin 3, a database software for managing PostgreSQL, thanks to Geronimo. And alongside these items and use cases that we're addressing, I've been working on addressing pain points for web developers that need local web testing software. So I have recently landed Nginx, and I'm also working towards landing HTTPD, also referred to as Apache, in the repo as well. I'm also aiming on building up all the fantastic work that Justin has done on wine and testing alongside the Canadian bacon to get wine out of our sort of like work in progress stage that we have for it. Like there's a few things it works with, but in general, it's like we tell people, you might want to wait a bit. So hopefully by 1.2.1, that will be addressed and people will be able to use wine in a reliable situation. So you could join us on the first and third Sunday of every month, barring holidays, OS releases, Hackfest, sleeping in, at usually 9 a.m. UTC. This one's a bit later just because we have a Hackfest that's also going on. And the next Sundays with Solus is on the 17th of July. And if you are watching this literally right now, like right now live, then tune in later because we will be beginning day 2 of Hackfest 1.2.1. And if you're watching this later, the recording for day 1 of Hackfest 2.1.2.1, we're not at 2 yet, is published and available for watching. If you have, well, 6 hours to spare. There was a lot, there was it 1.1 we had like 11 hours or something worth of content, and I think we're going to have like way more
Yeah,
Hackfest content for people to watch this time around.
we're already at like 6 hours already, so
Yeah, so I think we're going to break the well, I wouldn't say it was the goal to have it be like 11 hours worth of content, but I think we'll go past that substantially for Hackfest 1.2.1. And day 2 will likely be out as well by the time you're watching this. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.